My name is Greg Stone, and I fell in love with the sea since I was about 7 years old. I used to sit around watching Jacques Cousteau documentaries with my mask and flippers on, and Sea Hunt was the other one, and totally fascinated. Used to swim around my bathtub, and then when I finally got to the ocean a couple years later, I decided to make it my life's work. Originally as a scientist, and then as I began to experience the ocean more and see some of its problems and issues, I've become a marine conservationist, and I really devote my time now to creating marine protected areas, helping manage fisheries better, educating the public. Hopefully I can work myself out of a job and just go back to diving and looking for bottles and shipwrecks someday. But at the moment I need to engage and do what I can in the world community to save the oceans. Sea levels are rising quite rapidly, which is changing coastal ecosystems in ways that they can't adapt because sea levels have never risen this fast in the history of the world. The oceans are getting more acidic as they absorb CO2, and marine organisms, some of them are struggling with this higher pH content. Most of the wild fish stocks in the world are either collapsed or fully fished, and we really need to do something about that. In certain areas, coral reefs are heating up and bleaching and dying, and that's very important because the coral in a coral reef is what everything else relies on. The fish, the invertebrates, everything either lives on or around the coral reef. That's a problem. Tuna fisheries, are collapsing, and they're really neat animals, and they're really an important food source. Yellowfin tuna, skipjack tuna, big eye, bluefin, you name it. Sharks are one of the most important predators in the ocean. They're kind of like the sheepdogs of the ocean. They keep everybody in order. Imagine a farm without any fences. That's kind of what the ocean's like without sharks, is everything wanders around, doesn't know where it's supposed to be. And we've really degraded the shark populations, and as a consequence, the organization of marine ecosystems is in sort of chaos. It matters because humanity depends on all these things for our well-being, for an atmosphere that we can live in and breathe, for our food, most people live near the coastline. And if you don't have a healthy coastline, you are subject to increased damage from storms. There's even emotional loss. If the oceans are polluted and don't have fish in them, and people are living by the ocean, it takes away from your well-being. It takes away from your happiness. So there's so many reasons that we need to do something. But the most important is our very survival. We need to cut back on the amount of wild fish we take out of the ocean. We need to create more marine protected areas. We need to cut down on what we put into the ocean, especially things like reactive nitrogen and phosphorus from agricultural production. If you look at the mouth of any great river in the world, big river, there's a big dead zone there because of all the agricultural waste that's being leached into the river, and then it's taken downstream and into the ocean. Need to revamp our fishery management schemes almost everywhere. We need to cut down on CO2 emissions because of the direct link between CO2 emissions and ocean health, acidification and sea level rise, coral reefs. It's the most important thing to me personally, but it also is, in fact, the most important thing to the Earth. So we don't realize that because most people are kind of oriented to land. We're terrestrial creatures now. I mean, we used to be ocean creatures. The reason your blood's salty is because we came from the sea about 300 million years ago. The organisms left the ocean, came onto land, and we took the sea with us in our blood because it helps our cellular chemistry works better with salt because it evolved in the ocean. We really are ocean creatures.
So you're hopeful at the end of the day?
Oh yeah, I'm optimistic. They have to be. Otherwise, I think things change when people are optimistic, energetic, and they work hard.